Hi everybody. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about self-reliance. It's very important to be completely self-reliant. To see that there is no authority, but to see that for yourself, to explore that, to discover that. I'm not an authority. I'm not a teacher. There can be no teacher, and there can be no authority. By going inwards, you discover truth for yourself. And truth is a living thing. It's not something that's fixed, which would be dead, and that can then just be communicated as a word or a concept, an object that people can then just copy and find. It's it's unspeakable, it's untouchable, but it's alive. And so that the desire to seek truth has to come from within and has to be fed by itself. And everything that anybody says, no matter who that they appear to be, should be examined within oneself. Even if you hear something that sounds quite profound, or that sounds right, it stays in a holding bay until it gets considered and processed. Because obviously human worlds that we live in so far has become completely lost and crazy because of the constant belief in authority. And it goes very deep, because no matter who it is, whether it's a world leader such as a president, or a so-called spiritual leader, even someone like a Gandhi, they will emit a certain morality, and that has a solidity to it. And they will say, follow these rules, and they may even sound profound. A message might come from, or sound loving. But what you can explore is this aliveness, ebbs and flows. And love is not tilting the balance to one side, it's allowing the ebb and the flow. And so love can be single-sided. And that most parents will encounter with children, as an example, that you might have to explain a harsh truth to a child so that they don't get hurt. And it comes out as being harsh, but it's for kindness. So the whole concept of love when you go inward, opens up in quite a different fashion. And one thing I've encountered quite a few times is that it's very clear here, but this is to be discovered for yourself, that the moment we decide that we know, for example, I know how people should behave. In current psychology, it's things like people shouldn't be narcissists, they shouldn't talk this way. You're creating a solidity. So to even call somebody a narcissist would suggest that that human being is always a narcissist in every moment of their life. That's absurd. There may be narcissistic tendencies, but to imprison that human being into a description is really has no love to it whatsoever. To just be with the human being in this moment, no matter how it's appearing, is seeing that every human being is infinite potential. Some will remain in a similar pattern their whole life, and that's one way, and others will completely change. Some need hardship in order to get to a place where change occurs. And it's the pattern of evolution displays this, so that you might have a slug and if it's being attacked by other creatures or being burnt by the sun, it might over time in evolution grow a shell. So it's through hardship that we evolve and grow and change. So we can never truly know if speaking our truth, if it's said just clearly without aggression, just because it's what we feel, but not having to be nice or not having to be mean, just expressing what we feel, and that might feel like it's, or be sensed as if it's harsh, but it's just communicating clearly our feeling. And that can have an infinite number of possibilities as far as the reaction from the other. It might be very well received, it might be completely rejected, and that's not for you to decide. What happens is what happens. Sometimes people hear something and they might take it badly, and then they go away and think about it and then come back, who knows? But on this spiritual path, there can be a tendency to listen to certain teachers and believe everything that they say. And that's not what this is about at all. This is about you seeing for yourself if anything that a speaker says is true or not. And it's only if it is true within you that it can be followed, or that it can create change. The nothingness that we are needs and has no authority. But we are very, very conditioned into this idea of, we grow up with parents being an authority, teachers, school teachers being an authority, governments being authorities, and look at the mess that that's created. Right now, at this point in time, we've got Israel and Iran attacking each other. There's Russia and Ukraine at war, and everybody thinks they're right. And you've got wonderful human beings who think they're doing the right thing in going to war to defend a cause. And it breaks my heart because there's a beautiful intention, but it comes from an unexamined mind. And if each human being, that any change that can happen on this planet comes from within in each human being, and if there is change, then the outer will reflect that. But changing the outer will never change the inner mechanics of the mind and the heart. So that even if we achieved a certain amount of external peace, if people are still in mental conflict, there will still be fights, there will still be aggression. So this is why every revolution has eventually fallen away, failed, because the morality is only an external band-aid. And that's what most of the world spends enormous amounts of energy trying to fix, is constantly the outer. If we are like light bulbs, each human being just needs to turn on their light themselves. But it is obviously much easier to tell someone else how to live rather than to actually look inward at yourself. That actually does take effort. So you may hear with different avenues of spirituality, whether it's now Advaita, non-duality, whether it's Bhagavad Gita, Buddhism. Some will talk about self-inquiry, some about direct pointing, some about various yoga techniques, so they can be practiced, and others will talk about no practice. What is right for you is what you choose, and see if it fits. We're all the same source manifesting something very different. So it's for each person a bit, as much as there are shoes with different feet, there is each human being, depending on whether you're more an intellectual or more a feeling-based person, whether whether you feel excessively worthy or unworthy, all of these factors will change in a way the approach we have towards liberation. Someone who's been oppressed their whole life, through spirituality and discovering freedom, will have to realize that it's okay to say, go fuck yourself. Somebody who's been living in rage and anger and who's been constantly excessively talking or expressing themselves to everybody, will probably find that silence is what needs to bring them back into a peace and a balance. So that it gets to the same place, but it comes from two completely different avenues, and that depends on each person. So it's the same with self-inquiry, direct pointing, yoga. It's about, and sometimes for me it was a combination of many different things, and to be open to try to see if things work for you. Self-inquiry happened here. Yoga, in the sense of karma yoga, staying with what is present and just seeing that everything else is just movement and dancing about thoughts about things that weren't here. And in the end, the direct pointing of non-duality in a way was the saber that cut off the head. And I can't say, there's nobody here that knows what worked. It wasn't a process, things were happening, but it just, in whatever way it needed to happen, it was just seen more and more clearly. And because it's your life, rely upon yourself. And this is often the way that people end up in cults and things like that. They're just believing blindly what somebody is saying. And so that's why, question yourself, question everything, look inwards. So if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate. And if anybody wants to do a Zoom, the same, don't hesitate. So peace and love to all.